What a treat to see you all here. As I look across the room, this is a lot of relationships, and what a joy. The intermingling of how we all work together. All I can say to what Tara said is get involved. You'll get the more out of anything, the more involved you are, and I can tell you that KC IABC has been a key element in whatever success I've had. So it's true in everything. The more you give, the more you get. So do something. Get involved. It's pretty easy. So let me see the hands of the people who would be content with an average or good spouse. Okay, how about the ones that would want an average or good house? Okay, so why would you settle for an average or good career? Don't we all want an excellent spouse, an excellent house, and an excellent career? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And so to get past good and pretty good, we're going to start by focusing on just exactly what is your personal brand. Let's define that. Let's move to adopting a think excellence, not difference position for your personal brand. It's not important that you're different from. What's important is that you are excellent. We're going to get into that. Commit to volunteering and how that absolutely should be a win-win-win. We'll talk about that. And then in the spirit of Barnett Hellsberg, one of my mentors who tells me every time I speak, Eric, give them immediate take-home value. I'm going to get down to a very tactical level, and I've got a handout with 10 of my favorite networking tips so that you can apply these approaches to help build and strengthen your personal brand. So that's what we plan to cover today. Love interruptions. This is a team sport. None of us are smarter than all of us. And I'll stick around after if you want to come up. And Roy has a copy of the slides, so he's going to, I think, distribute to everybody that was here today. So you've got that. So with that, let's get started. Traditional marketing asks these kinds of questions. What is your USP? Who knows what USP means? Unique selling position. This was all popularized in the 70s. My product's the only one that has ABC. That's my unique selling proposition. What's your niche? What is your POD? Point of difference. What makes you different than the next person? I think all of those questions are the wrong questions. In fact, let's take a look at 3 industry leaders that I had zero to do with. So this is not a brag book. This is just an observation. So UPS. What is UPS's go-to-market premise for about a dozen years? Okay, we're going to have audience participation. What can Brown do for you? They're not, everyone remember, okay, yes, okay. They're not saying we're better than FedEx, cheaper than DHL, the only ones with 10 a.m. deliveries, our drivers are cuter. No. What can Brown do for you is a position of excellence. How about McDonald's? They know a thing or two about poisoning young minds and bodies. Sorry. What's their tagline? Literacy? I'm loving it. They're not out saying we're the only ones with all-day breakfast, best locations, blah, blah, blah. And for as long as I have been on this earth, Allstate says you're in good hands with us. Not great hands, not stronger than her, cuddly her. No. You're in good. I would have loved to have been in the room when the agency dude goes up to the CEO and says, I got it. You're in good hands with us. Not great hands, not stronger, not nicer, just good. More than 60 years, that tagline has been in place. Now they change it and evolve it. The current campaign, I think they call Mayhem. It's the guy and all this stuff's going crazy. It still ends. Are you in good hands? The good hands people? Folks, these are not comparative, differentiated positionings. These are positions of excellence, not difference. In fact, let me step up on my soapbox for just a moment. Differentiation is a stupid positioning. Think about it. If I am growing because I am different from my competitors, what are my competitors going to do? They're going to copy me. It is unsustainable. So even if you differentiate, pretty soon your competitors are going to start saying the same thing. Asterisk, unless you're one of the 1% scenarios where you truly have a meaningful, defensible patent, ingredient, something that no one else can get. 99% of the time. Tell me the difference between two great architectural engineering firms. I mean, come on, Burns and Mac versus fill in the blank, HNTB, Black & Veatch, you're all great. You know how I know that? Because you're winning, you're here, you're growing, you've got clients. That's how it works in America. Remember, capitalism won, the wall fell. Okay. So it's so important to have a sustainable position of excellence, which applies to you. So think excellence, not difference, as it relates to you. You are a product. In fact, you are the most important product you will ever try to market. Think of yourself, a little out-of-body experience, and think of yourself as the product. In fact, how are you really different from other people? Different isn't better. Different is just different. Different does not mean better. Somehow we got that in our mindset that if it's different, ooh, must be. No, it could just be different. So when we talk about owning a brand position, the position lives in the 6 inches between the ears of the people who matter most to you when asked, when you think of Darren, what do you think of? That is the definition of your personal brand. Let me try that one more time. Your brand lives in the 6 inches between the ears of the people who matter most to you when asked in an unaided, unprompted manner, when you think of Darren, what comes to mind? Now, I was teasing my table before we started. One of the most disgusting trade shows I ever did a keynote for was for a dental convention. And let me tell you, never walk through the trade show of a dental convention. You just don't want to see the before pictures. It's hard to... So I did my famous dental joke with them, talking about brand building. They're trying to grow their practices. And I said, you know, for the patient that walks in and goes, oh, I don't want to floss anymore, doctor. I don't want to brush, and coming and seeing you, this is such a hassle. I don't want to do that. The dentist is going to say, that's okay. If you don't want to take care of your teeth, they'll just go away. If you say you don't want to manage your personal brand, it's okay. You're going to have one anyway. In fact, you can find out what your current personal brand is without spending a dime by simply talking to people who know you and asking the right questions. Einstein, questions are the creative acts of intelligence. Brand perception is so much more than look and feel. When we're 5 years old, we learn how to buy eggs, right? How do you buy eggs? You open the lid. What are you looking for? You don't even want the shells. I mean, think about it. If the shells end up in the end product, it's not a good thing. We open it up, we look at this. What you want is what's inside. Saying look and feel would be like going up to my good friend Elaine, and both of us have been married for decades, and saying, not to each other, though. Yeah. I don't know anything about you. I don't know if you speak English. I don't know your values, but what a look. Can we get together? I mean, seriously, it's equally silly to think look and feel is your brand. It's obviously the eggs, not the eggshells. So let's talk about what's better. So let's take these two fictitious restaurants. And you know them both. Amalfi's, the fancy schmancy Italian restaurant with the white tablecloths and the printed daily menus and the sommelier that helps you with the wine. And you know Ralph's, that's that one right around the corner. And It's just, bricks and the red and white plastic tablecloth that was recently washed in 95, 96. They forget. And your wine choice is, would you like the house red? Which one's better? Right, you can't answer that question. It's obviously situational. Honey, just throw on jeans, let's go grab dinner, versus let's celebrate something. It's not better just because they're different. It's what's best at that moment. How many of you have been to Capitol Grill? Really nice, fancy steakhouse, right? Ridiculous service, okay? So we look at that experience, and I'll pick on Catherine and Darren, and both of them, they work together, and they go to Capitol Grill, which is fancy schmancy, and I have the same meal with the same waiter, the same night. Didn't know it, different parts of the restaurant. Next day I go, Catherine, how was your meal? Catherine says, I felt regal. It was exceptional service. They were filling my water all the time. They whisked my salad away. I get up to use the restroom. They fold my napkin. I felt like a queen. Darren, how was the service? It was oppressive. I mean, I'm holding my water glass and they're filling it. I barely finish my salad and I feel like they're trying to flip the table. And let me tell you, I don't want anybody putting their mitts on my napkin once I start. Who's right? But if I'm the manager of the restaurant, I say, look forward to seeing you again and sorry you didn't get it. We tend to shoot the customer because they didn't get what my definition of excellence was. I'm quite certain Capitol Grill doesn't want to piss off their customers by putting fingers on their napkin. I'm sure they're trying to do that as exceptional service. So when we talk about what is excellence, because that's a restaurant that's trying to provide you excellent service and clearly check mark and a miss. What we really need to do is define the word excellence. Well, I am a word nerd. I go to remedial word nerd sessions every other Thursday. What do we do when we're looking for a definition? We go to the dictionary. I went to 13 to look up the word excellence. I'm not going to give you all 13, but I am going to give you 3. Surpassing others in some good quality, or the sum of great qualities of great worth. I really like that definition. That's Webster. Being the very best quality, exceptionally good. That's Funk and Wagnall. Very good of its kind, eminently good. That's Merriam-Webster, and why they're not the same here. It's like, okay. Go with me. Those all pretty much say the same thing, and if I showed you the next 10, they would say the same thing. But just like the restaurant experience, here's the punchline. Excellence isn't what you say, it's what they say. I don't get to define excellence for the people I interact with. They define excellence and decide, am I meeting the criteria? Go back to the example at the restaurant. They're trying to do excellent service, but it backfired on Darren. Everyone with me? So in order to find out, you're managing your personal brand. There's people important to you, your colleagues, your bosses, your executives you deal with, all those folks. In order to find out how they define excellence, you need to do this very complex, expensive methodology, which is known as a discussion. That's where 2 people kind of look eye to eye and talk. I know this is newfangled. But we really have to ask them, because if I asked Darren before, would you like us to fold your napkin? He'd have said, no, just leave my napkin. But we tend to assume what people define as excellence. So we have to ask them. But here's the problem with asking them. If you do a direct inquiry, Leanne, how do you define my brand in terms of excellence? You will get this blank look. Eric, why are you doing this to me? You can't take a direct frontal attack to find out what your personal brand is. You have to go around. And the technique that I have embraced and taught for decades, again, I learned from Barnett Helzberg, who teaches us the 3 magic questions. What do I do that you really like? What do I do that you don't like? What do you wish I did that I don't? So now go back to the example. I'm trying to get the definition of excellence from my friend Leanne on me. And if I say, Leanne, you don't have to answer. If I say, Leanne, what do I do that you really like? What do I do that you don't like? What's missing? What do you wish I was doing that I'm not? That's her definition of excellence as it relates to you. Does that make sense? I'm going pretty fast, but let me tell you, this works. So you have to ask all those questions of the people who matter most to you. But I'm sure there's a whole lot of people that you would need to ask to figure out, am I excellent? What do I like, not like? What's missing? And it takes a little bit of effort. You have to have that conversation. So you have that conversation. You sit down with your boss. You sit down with your peer, a fellow board member in KC IABC, whatever it may be, and you ask those questions. And I'm telling you right now, if you will ask 20 people who know you pretty well, who will not BS you, who will give you the unvarnished truth, and if you will put on your reporter hat and just do information capture on all 20, Stacy, when you think of me, what do you like best? Look like Lise. Okay? Plot them on a map, do a little scattergram. You're going to see which 3 or 4 things rise to the top. And guess what? That's your personal brand. It is. So I've had this conversation. Someone says, yes, but I went through that, and someone said, I'm really organized. And I think to myself, it's all chewing gum and baling wire. I'm not all that organized. It's like, this is not reality, folks. This is brand perception. If they think you are organized, if they think you're assertive, if they think you're smart, they think you're unscrupulous, okay? I mean, brand perceptions live right here. If you ask the 3 magic questions, you will get the answer. Find out 15, 20 people, it's going to come clear to you, what is your current brand? Okay. Lost in Space. Yeah, I used to be able to do these references, but now it's because of Nick at Night. But the robot would go crazy. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. You got to be careful when you do this, because every person you talk to has their own definition of excellence. Remember, I can't tell you what excellence is. It's their definition. Oh, wait. It's also their answer. If I think you're organized, you are. If I think you're assertive, you are. If I think you're smart, you are. The key, if you want to manage your brand, is to focus on those trigger points. Trigger points, that massage term, they're working the muscle, okay, that's the trigger point. You got to hit their button. You got to make sure if that's what you want them to think of you, you've got to be able to tell that story. But you can't do the 3 magic questions with absolutely everybody you interact with all the time. That gets old. But you can choose some. So as you're choosing some, I want you to think of this story that I stole from Robert Fulghum. Everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten. I also know in any kind of 30, 40-minute presentation, it's hard for people to stay focused to the whole thing, so this would be a good time to kind of space out if you want. This is double-clicking on me, I'm sorry. So it's Florida. It's sunset, and the tide is going out. And Grandpa, not yet, little 5-year-old Mikey, 5-year-olds, infinite supply of questions. My kids say, take the kid for a walk. We're going to get dinner together. Come back in 15 minutes. So Grandpa and little Mikey are walking along the beach. And all of a sudden, Grandpa reaches down, picks up one of the starfish that's stuck up on the rocks as the tide goes out, throws it out in the water, splash. So little Mikey, 5-year-old, scratching his head, says, Grandpa, wait a minute. Yes, honey? What are you doing? Why are you grabbing that starfish? Learning opportunity, tides, gills. I get a chance to teach my grandkids. Well, honey, water, they need it to breathe, it's the tides, the moon. They could get stuck up on the rocks. Scratching his head, Grandpa reaches down, throws one more out. Walking a little further, and the 5-year-old just stops and turns and goes, Grandpa, what are you trying to do? Well, honey, I expect, no. As far as I see, there are more starfish up on the rocks. And we've already missed a whole bunch. And I know Mom and Dad are going to call us for dinner really quick. How do you feel like what you're doing makes any difference at all? And Grandpa nods knowingly, picks up one more starfish, throws it out, splash, turns to the 5-year-old and says, well, it made a difference for that one. You can't have the 3 magic question conversation with every starfish that you encounter. Now, if there's some starfish you want to leave up on the rocks and have them asphyxiate, that's a different class. But when you do this enough, you're going to start to see a pattern of what people are saying they like, not like, and missing. And you'll have your starting point for your personal brand. Let me pause there. Everyone with me? That was a lot. It's excellence, not difference. It's their perception. You got to get their definition, and you got to find out what they currently think. Okay, we've done all of that. Now we got to talk about how do we manage your brand, because now we've established it. We've got to figure out if we want to evolve it. Maybe it's not exactly right. Maybe it's exactly right and you just need to perpetuate it. Maybe it's completely wrong and we need to start planting some new things. I love doing this in front of a bunch of communicators because you get this. The very first step in any effective communication is to make sure that the communication is received. Thank God we have all these filters that keep out so much of the stuff that is sent to each of us every day. How do we get it through? How do I get the ball caught? It's football season. Mahomes looks incredible. Patrick goes back for a pass. Tyreek is streaking down. Patrick unloads an 80-yard pass. Tyreek is just flying down the field, and it just goes off his fingertips. Oh my, wasn't that a beautiful pass? Yeah, well, in the record book, what's that called? And it wasn't caught. 3rd and 8. In comes the rush. Mahomes is about to get squashed. Sherman, our little fullback, he throws this wounded quail. It's one ugly pass. Sherman jumps up in the middle of a scrum, catches it, falls forward for 2 yards, 4th and 6. That was an ugly pass. In the record book, it's called complete. The number one job of any communication is to make sure the message is received before it can be acted on. So how do we help ensure that as you're managing your brand, the messages you're telling the people that matter most to you are received? A couple things to keep in mind. Those of you that I've had the privilege of working with or for have heard me say this every day. It's not what you want to say, it's what they need to hear. It's what I call recipient-oriented communications. We all know this premise, right? I'm going to give you a visual that you'll never forget. Not my kids. 3 adorable kids. Tried our best to show the same kid at 4, at 11, and 15. Let's talk about the facts of life. When the 4-year-old comes up and goes, Daddy, where do babies come from? A mythological answer suffices. Oh, honey, God will provide, the stork will come. When the 11-year-old goes, hey, Pops, I'm a little confused with this whole baby thing. Can you explain it to me? It's time for a conversation about biology because those days are right upon him. And when that 15-year-old heartthrob goes up to you and goes, "Oh, daddy-o, don't you think babies are the cutest thing in the world?" Time for a conversation about morality, and I'm just going to leave it right there. The spirit of recipient-oriented communication. Fact, truth. Same dad, same kid, same question, 3 different scenarios. But the spirit of recipient-oriented communication says, if I give the biological answer to that one, I don't think that's going to sit very well. And if you want to try mythology with that one, have a good time. It has to be what they need to hear. So if you're managing your personal brand and there are aspects or traits that you need to stress, don't tell the person this is what I want. Have them learn it for themselves. Very organized. Very assertive. Whatever that trait may be, get them to figure it out. We're in Missouri. Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain. Darn, this is double clicking. I'm sorry. If I had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter. Blog post, RFP response, internal communications. We have no patience in today's world. You've got to get your comms down to just so cryptic. Don't get me started on the dearth of the English language and what social has done to it. No, I'm here to win. I am always going to push the legal and moral line, but we're going to win. Raise your hand if you've done a 1-letter text response, K. What does K stand for? And for 25 brownie points, could you please spell the word that's in the dictionary? Can you cut 75% of your content and not lose anything in the transmission? Because that's the world we live in today. Okay? We also know that one size fits all never works. So if you're managing your personal brand to different people, you have to position yourself a little bit differently. So let's take the example of, let's say Burns and do you have summer hours? You close at 2 o'clock on Fridays between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Okay, that's not a new benefit. Let's say for a moment that ABC organization is going to close summer hours, 2 o'clock Fridays between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Okay? If I am a colleague, what do I think? Whoopee, I get Friday afternoons off. If I'm leadership, what do I think? I'm a little bifurcated. What a great recruiting tool. But somebody's got to be there to take care of our clients on Friday afternoon. If I'm in the industry and I hear that, wow, what a cool place to work. And if I'm the community, but what if I'm a client? Good for you. Who's going to be there when I need something at 4 o'clock on Friday? So unintended or intended consequences. When you start building your brand to different people, you may have to put a different lens on it based on what they need to hear, not what you want to say. I'm really trying hard to connect all these themes, and I'm doing it fast, so slow me down if so. So when Roy reached out and asked me to do specifically personal brand building at all stages of your career, it gave me pause. And I did not want to just give some capricious couple-word answer. I really thought about this, and I talked to a lot of professionals. But before we do that little section, I want to give you a quote from Rabbi Hillel, one of the great sages in yesteryear. And you may not know Rabbi Hillel, but you know the quote. If I am not for myself, who will be? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? One more time. If I'm not for myself, who will be? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? That's the mantra I would ask you to embrace as it relates to personal advocacy, personal merchandising, Another way to think of it is a blog post I did right there on our site. Have a good time. It's not gated. Do good and get caught is the headline of that post. If you do bad, you're going to get caught. So how do you get caught? Doing good. So with a consciousness that says, if I'm not for myself, who will be? If I am only for myself, what am I? We all know those people. I'm not talking about that. And if not now, when? Today's a good day to start managing your brand, or your teeth will just go away. No, wait, I'm mixing those. So what I've done is I've lumped the first third of your career, the second third of your career, and the third third of your career, because it's all fuzzy. And what's a millennial and an Xer and a cusper and all? Screw that. So kind of your first third, middle third, last third. And what I've done is taken it through by attribute. So let's start with connections. In your first third, it's who do you know? In your middle third, it's who knows you? And in your last third, it's what are you known for? Make sense? Let's talk a little bit about skills. To get in this business, you started with some very specific skills. Your first couple jobs, you were in a tight little box doing copywriting, internal comms, social. Well, as you move through your career, you should be able to both deepen and broaden that skill set to be both specific and generalized. And by the time you get to your last third, you should have a broad sense of how to achieve whatever needs to be done, more of a general contractor as opposed to a plumber or a carpenter. With me? Let's take a look at learning. Okay, yes, you have to be a lifelong learner in your first third. Yes, you have to be a lifelong learner in your middle. And you got to keep learning your entire life. I mean, goodness gracious, people. When I started Morningstar Communications in '97, the web was 2 years old. Social media was 10 years away. You think the communications business changed in the last 20 years? Have I stopped learning? I hope not. So, when do you need to be a learner? Yeah. And what is your personal motivation? Again, at the first third, it's like, yes, I can be an independent, autonomous adult, feed myself, save a few nickels for retirement. I am achieving success. Well, at the middle third, you want to move to sustainability. You don't want to worry, am I a one-hit wonder, or am I going to be able to perpetuate that? And finally, in your last third, most people seek significance. They want to make a difference. They want to mentor young people. They want to help repair the world, whatever it may be. So I bring these up to say, when you do your assessment of your personal brand, as you think about where you are in your career, use these as benchmarks to say, am I moving in the area that I want to go? There's one more suite of these. Work focus. Typically, in our first 10 years, our job is to get stuff done. Then we move to a place where we're managing others who are getting stuff done. And then we get to the point where we're helping lead the managers that are getting the stuff done. Now, not everyone has to move to leadership. It's a pyramid. But I know who's in this room because you all chose to be here. You are wanting to grow your personal brand. Most of us want to evolve in that direction. Let's talk about professional contribution. What we do as communicators. Well, we start by helping craft the story, figure out how to tell the story. We move to shaping the story. What should we say? And we end up with determining should we even do this in the first place? What's the overall we should do? So it gets a larger scope for our professional skill set. Our thought process. In your first third, you want to be known as somebody who gets it done. I give it to Matilda, she gets it done. In the middle third, the question you ask is not, how do I get it done? It's, what's the best way to get this done? And then finally, what should we be doing in the first place? Let me give you an example. What's the best way to get this done? At Morningstar Communications, we've always prided ourselves in our monthly reports. And I've got clients in the room, so they have received these. Pretty specific, pretty detailed. I've seen other firms, it drives me crazy. Services rendered, $2,200. I would never pay that bill. But we pride ourselves in our monthly report, and I would talk to our contacts regularly, and I would say, are our monthly reports helpful? And I did this once, and my contact said, Eric, they are great. I want you to know that one Sunday every quarter, I sit there with all 3 monthly reports because I have to consolidate them into a quarterly report to my boss. How would you like it if we do a quarterly report for you instead of 3 months? Well, better, cheaper, faster, right? I mean, because we asked the question, what's the best way to get it done? I was actually creating more work for my client. Just think about that. But you have to ask. You got to find out. And the last dimension is goals. In the first third, you're planting seeds for your career. Oh, I might be interested in engineering. Ooh, I like social. Ooh, I'm big on crisis. In the middle third, you should be cultivating those. We should start to see some shoots and some greenery. And in your last third, you should harvest what your goals are. You don't wait till the very end. You should be able to enjoy the fruits of your labors. So very quickly, that's 8 different dimensions on how to think of your personal brand at different stages of your career. A few tips on advanced personal branding. Make sure your digital brand is in sync with your real brand. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but have you Googled yourself? Do you look at your LinkedIn on a regular basis? You know, before you meet with anyone, they're checking out your LinkedIn. Is it a good representation? Is it current? Was it recently updated in 2011? I mean, what kind of a brand do you want it to represent? Read everything. Okay, long form are called books. Not everything can be done in 250 words or 3,000 words. So, read books, read business books. It is mind-boggling how few people are reading books. Be both deep and wide with your interests. I can talk about country music. I don't really like country music, but some of my friends do. I can talk about Philharmonic. We can talk about, as one of my friends said, Grundfos, water pumps. Eric, you're the only one I know who gets excited about water pumps. Well, it was pretty cool. They're pretty iterative, and it's like, well, okay, Eric. Strengthen your listening skills. In a world where people suck at listening, if you are an excellent listener, your brand will grow. We don't listen. We just stop talking so we can talk again. Ask great questions to lead the recipient. That's how you become a leader. And this is one of the things I teach on my one-on-one. Don't give answers. Ask the right question. And then someone goes, well, that's my idea. Yes, it is. Always do the right thing. Treat others as you want to be treated. That's it. Always do the right thing. Treat others as you want to be treated. All the rest is commentary. When you get the PDF, you'll be able to click through. But these are 3 posts on our site. There's about 80 posts on our site. Have at it. But do good and get caught, I've already referenced. Think, feel, do, the best way to do a persuasive presentation. We all have to present. We have to tell our boss what we're doing. We have to tell the board. We have to tell our team. How do you approach presentations? That's something I spend a ton of time on. Read that post and it'll help you start, because you don't want to open up Keynote or PowerPoint and start. That is absolutely the wrong way to start developing a presentation. And then there's so many different leadership styles, and if you're more conscious of, do you want to be Attila the Hun, do it my way or the highway? Do you want to be a servant leader? What can I do to make you successful? These are all different styles that you have in your hip pocket. If you will consciously choose the right one, it will help you build the brand that you want. It's a discipline that takes a little bit of practice. I want to talk about volunteering. We've got 17 minutes. We're going to get this done, and I'll stay for questions, and we'll be there. Raise your hand if you volunteer. Yeah, I love our group. Okay. But I bet you don't do it the right way according to Eric. Win. Good for the organization, good for the people the organization serves, but good for you. So let's talk about that. You will make contacts, connections. You will become known, without a closed quote, and have the aligned values. When you volunteer for the ABC group, you're finding people who share a common value. But here's the point. Don't do your day job. Oh, you're in communications. Would you market? Turn the page, KC. I have the privilege of working on that board with Sly James and others. That's the initiative to help get all of our third grade kids to third grade literacy by third grade. Here's your little education moment of the day that I didn't know until 6 years ago when I got involved. Third grade literacy is the pivot point. It's been that way forever. Every teacher will tell you that. Kids learn to read until you get third grade literacy, and then you read to learn. Got it? If you're not at third grade literacy by third grade, it's 90% likely you'll never catch up. So we got to get our kids third grade literate by third grade, which is why Sly is pushing for the pre-K initiative. We got to get our kids smarter. It's a no-brainer. It's terrible. But I'm on the governance committee. I'm dealing with contracts and lawyers and long-term planning. There's others that are doing the communications and marketing. I'm using it as a way to grow my skill set. Volunteer for a cause you deeply care about, but don't do your day job for free. So I'm not going to ask how many people are volunteering correctly, but this is a chance for the third win. Obviously good for the organization, good for who the organization serves, but you should learn. So at this point, I want to hand out, and we'll have a little fun with this. Mark Twain, if I had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter. Why don't you start that side? Okay, so we're going to do a little, everyone have it? Little participatory reading. Carrie, thank you for volunteering for going first. Would you read nice and loud, number 1? Most of us are right-handed. Most of us tend to put the name tag on the left. It's wrong, okay? You put it on the right because when you reach to shake, that's the side that's showing. Some of these tips are like layups. Got it? Put your name tag on the right. Some of these are harder. Thank you, Carrie. Darren, would you do number 2? So this is just a practice. Hi, I'm Eric.
Hi, Eric. I'm Darren.
Hi, Darren. Nice to meet you. I've got like an extra chance to try to remember his name. How many of us say we suck remembering names? Okay. If you say it right back, you achieve multiple goals. You've got a better chance of remembering it. And then in 5 minutes, when I go, Darren, have you met my friend Sean? I can use his name again. Got it? Use the name back. And if you get it wrong, like, hi, I'm Eric. Hi, Linda. No, Eric, it's Leanne. It's no big deal if you blow it the first time. What's really embarrassing is the 5th time. Leanne, give me, give, get. So again, when we think about going to a networking event, most of us have this false sense. I don't have anything to share. I don't know anything. It's like, okay, you have stuff to give. Maybe it's a new restaurant, a movie you saw, something that's not business. So what's going on? You have something to share, something to give. The get can be very professional. I'm looking for a new admin. Hey, our organization needs a new CFO. Hey, I'm looking for something in the communications field for a big, locally based, privately held engineering firm. Do you know anyone there? Give, get. You could do this in the car on the way there. So when someone says, what's going on? Hey, have you been to this new restaurant? Now you've got it, you're talking. Give, get. Pretty simple. Kathleen, number 4.
Questions are the creative acts of intelligence. This quote from Einstein told you very well in networking. Ask smart, open-ended questions gets the person talking. Put on your recorder hat and listen intently, and the conversation will easily go.
If you want to be thought of as a good networker and someone just ask good questions. Don't give me your opinion, just keep asking questions. Listen, ask the next question. Listen, ask the next question. Come on, we all learn that technique. We forget it sometimes. And by asking those questions, you can shape your brand perception. You know, I had a situation once where blah, blah, blah. Is that similar to what you're going through? Well, you've just planted that seed of whatever it is you want to plant. Eric, would you do number 5? Take the opposite of that. If you show up late and you're all flustered and your hair's a mess and you got to run to the restroom, you're just not getting off on your best foot. If you're choosing to go to a place where then choose to get there early. You will just have a better experience. Katie, give me number 6. One of my favorite tips. There's always a buffet. There's always a bar. Now, note, I did not say stand in front. Okay, you don't want to be the roadblock. But what happens is people come up and then they leave. Now, I have a friend I told this tip to once, and he said, "Oh, Eric, I've got a better one." Okay? He says, at the beginning of a networking event with a bar, he goes, I go up to the bartender and I order my scotch and water and I give them a $20 tip. And they look at me and he says, "You'll be seeing me a lot." And his technique is he gets to the back of the line and he's chatting with Elaine. Going up and he gets his drink and he sets his drink down and then we get in line and then Katie, all he does all night long. Now, I don't think I could do that. First of all, I don't drink, but that's a pretty cool idea to, get 2 minutes with as many people as possible. Matt, give me number 7. When I was young in this career, I would do my networking thing, and I used to figure out by how many cards I collected. That's like my friend who was the accountant who said he would always count his Halloween candy. And it's like, well, if you give me licorice, that's a -1. It's like, it is so much more important. When I go to a networking event, I always say, can I make 1 or 2 connections? And my definition of a connection is somebody I will follow up with and maybe get a cup of coffee with. That's a pretty good use of an hour or 2, as opposed to 25 business cards. Who wants to read one? Come on. So there are people who think their business card is like a little piece of art. It's not. It's a business tool. I have trouble remembering. CRS, don't we all have a little bit of that? I think when you finish a conversation, I'm meeting with Catherine, I meet her for the first time, I turn around, I take her business card and say, loves Mexican food, went to KU. Well, I've got a few things that I can remember about the person so that when I do my follow-up or my LinkedIn or my love note, really enjoy talking about Mexican food, whatever it may be. Another volunteer reader? Eva? Oh, okay. 9 and then 10. I learned this one the hard way. About 20 years ago, there was a woman executive in Kansas City that I really, really wanted to meet. She was on my target list, and I finally got to meet her. We have a great little conversation. I'm pumped. Next day, hi, Matilda. We met last night. I'd like to follow up. Could we get together? There's a pause, and she goes, I don't remember meeting you. And I was crushed. And I realized I didn't give her anything to really remember me by. I'm not the guy who told the story about the guacamole at this restaurant or the new whatever. There was nothing that she could remember me by. So make sure when you're networking, you do something so that you're not just a card. And number 10, bring us home. When people say fine, that is like slamming the door on a conversation. Well, how you doing? Fine. What's the follow-up? Come up with something that's authentically you. And don't say fine. And then number 11, in honor of my mom, the power of a handwritten note. I know many people in this room have received handwritten notes from me over the years. The single best way to leave a positive, memorable impression is simply a brief handwritten note sent within 24 hours after the contact. That is a lost art in today's world and incredibly impactful. So as we go forward and you work on managing your personal brand, think excellence, not difference. Understand that you have a current personal brand. If you care about it, you might do the 20-person test and score it, and scary as hell, but important. That's what you are. We talked about how to change your personal brand by asserting through a number of these techniques the essential role of volunteering in our community. It is how people get to know people. And importantly, some very practical tips on, as you're interacting with people, what are some of the tips on how best to tell your story? So I love our chapter. I am honored that I was asked to speak today. I thank you, Roy and Stace and everyone so very much. And I'm happy to hang for any questions that you all have. And we are 5 till 9. So Julie, let me do a little role play, and this is a drill down on that. How do we actually ask those 3 questions to elicit valid, unvarnished, core answers? So I'll do both sides of the role play. Okay, Julie, you're my client. I meet with you on a quasi-regular basis. We've got an hour scheduled, 4 topics, and I'm going to start the meeting like this. Hey, Julie, thanks for making time today. Before we dive into it, I just got a couple of questions I'd like to ask you. Would that be okay? Sure. I'm looking for first blush, top of mind, not deep reflective thought to a few answers to a few questions. So Julie, when you think of me and Morningstar Communications, I know you're happy because we get a chance to work together, but what is it that we do that you really like? Here's the hardest part. Let silence work for you. And the first answer is often hooey. The first answer is, oh, Eric, everything's great and the sky is blue. And it's like, okay, I appreciate that. And you're in information acquisition mode. You're just writing it down. You're not defending. You're not explaining. You're just capture. A second way to answer the question that I find really helps ask the question. When your boss asks you about working with Morningstar Communications, and you want to say something positive about it, what would you tell him or her? Oh, I guess I would say how strategic you always, okay, fine. Julie, another question. What is it I do that you don't really like? Now remember, this is a client. So what's her first answer going to be? Everything's good. Everything's fine. It's all good. Julie, I appreciate that. It means a lot to me, but I have a bias towards continuous improvement, the Deming approach to life. So when I ask you this question in a year, if there was one thing that you wished I could do a better job of, what would it be? Oh, Eric, I would think you could improve your responsiveness. I would expect you to reply to the email in the same week in which I send it. Okay, so likes the strategy, needs better responsiveness. Julie, just one more question. You understand in real time this has only taken like a minute? What's missing, Julie? What else could I be doing for you that I'm not? What's the answer? Everything's great if I knew what I want. Okay, I mean, so the follow-up may be, Julie, what are you worried about? When the alarm clock goes off in the morning, when you're at the gym, when you're walking the dog, what's kind of keeping you up? What are you worrying about? Well, we've got this new competitor in Raytown, and I'm not sure what they're up to. I just got Julie's definition of my personal brand and her needs. She loves the strategy, she wants me to be more responsive, and she needs better intel on her competitors. That's what she wants from me. Now, if I ask another person in that organization, I might get a very different answer. What I really like is that you're always on time and on budget. What I don't like is that it's not very creative. And what's missing is I wish you would be more proactive with suggestions. And they're right too, because everyone owns their own opinion. But if you do that follow-up, I think those kind of sub-questions, I think will elicit a deeper answer as opposed to the cursory, everything's fine. Leanne. Exactly, and I've used them in that exact manner. Because if you do those, okay, as your boss, what do you like, Bet? What do you like? What's missing? You're going to get the same clarity as opposed to, how can I be a more excellent boss to you? I mean, you're just going to get hooey if you go there. By the way, this works in one-on-one relationships, honey. What do I do? You just want the second list to be the shortest. Yes, Carrie. But Carrie, doing a handwritten note costs 50 cents and takes a minute. Matt. Matilda, I so admire the fact that you want to better yourself with a master's degree in integrated marketing communications. But don't think of it as a way to differentiate yourself from your competitors. Think of it as a way to strengthen your own value to the people who matter most, to your future bosses, to your colleagues. What you want to be known as is as an excellent IMC person, not that you're different than Fred or different than Sally. You want a personal brand of excellence. So let me tell you a quick story on that. I have a few contacts. I was complaining one day because a contact in our industry, I will not name, was saying some disparaging things about me to a friend who told me. And I was so shocked because I thought this person didn't have disparaging things to say about me. And I was talking to a friend of mine and how that really bothered me. This person said, okay, if I go to your LinkedIn and I pull 1,000 names, how many do you think really feel that way? I'd like to think it's less than 10. Are you okay with 99%? You're not going to be affable to everyone. That is impossible. Think about politics. I love doing this. If a candidate wins with 60%, that's called a landslide. 4 out of 10 people don't want them in the chair. This is not a popularity contest. Now, you don't want to be scorched earth, but there will be some people that you just won't click with, and it's okay. You just learn to accept it and move on and hope that you have more that you do click with than you don't. But every time I do my coaching on presentations or one-on-ones, the number one thing is to be authentically you. None of us can wear a costume all the time. You've got to be you. I mean, there's a lot of people in this room who've known me for a long time, and when I speak, it's me. I am what WYSIWYG. You are what you see. So accept the fact that some people just aren't going to like you. I'm okay with that. No, There is only one you out there. So let's start right there. I was working with that 3-letter company downtown that was recently acquired and let a whole bunch of people go that I can't say. And I was helping them with a presentation once, and literally one of the people, I'm sorry I interrupted you, that was rude, stood up and said, hey, we're all just kind of interchangeable parts, whoever you get. It's like, oh, do we wife swap? I mean, can I have your car? We're not interchangeable parts. We are one. There's only one of you. So, Mr. Jones, I'm sure you're looking at a lot of people that appear to be like me. What I've been told and what I believe is that the 3 things that distinguish me as the best candidate for you are A, B, and C. Now, I can't tell you how I compare to the other candidates because I, first of all, don't know who they are. But even if I knew who they were, I don't know your perception on them. Here's what I bring to you. What I'm great at is da-da-da-da-da-da. Keep it back on you and why you are their best choice. Don't try to differentiate. Just let it go. When someone would say to me, well, we're looking at a couple, 3 different consultants, and how are you different from? I don't know how I'm different from. What I can tell you is what my clients tell me they value the most is, how is Burns & Mac different from HNTB, from Black & Veatch, from GBA? I mean, come on, you're all in the AEC industry. It's all no, you're all one of a kind. Everyone has their own thing. And to try to tell your story vis-a-vis your difference with others is silly. You all are so good to give me some of your time this morning. I wish you all the best. If I can help you downstream, let me know. You've got my contact info. If you want to link with me, hit me with a note. Remind me we met today. And I wish you all the best.